Welcome to the candidate forum for Kalamazoo City Mayor. I am Regina Nelson, a member of the League of Women Voters of the Kalamazoo area, and I will be your moderator for this event. Well, thank you. Also with us is Chris Kuthi, former president of the League, who will be keeping time for the candidates. She will make sure that the formal parts of the forum are kept to the time allotted by holding up cards that indicate how much time remains. The sponsors for this forum include the Douglas Community Association, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, El Concilio, Isaac, NAACP Metropolitan Kalamazoo Branch, Western Michigan University Student Association, and the YWCA. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors for promoting this forum for online viewing. This is an important service to our community. Public Media Network will be recording tonight's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Established in 1920, the League of Women Voters has never supported nor opposed a political party or an individual candidate for public office. The League does support issues after careful study without regard to the stance of any political party. It is our privilege to provide voters with information to help them cast an informed vote. The League does this by publishing voter guides online at vote411.org and in print form, and by sponsoring public forums like this one. Our printer voter guide will be available later this month. To make this forum an informative event that it confirms to League principles of fairness, each candidate has agreed to adhere to our ground rules. We also ask that the audience not clap, cheer, or boo during the forum. We will now begin the forum. The forum will start with an opening statement from each candidate for up to 2 minutes. Then I will pose questions for the candidates, alternating who responds first. Questions from the forum sponsors in the League. That's where they come from. Each candidate will have up to 90 seconds to respond to each question. At the conclusion of the questions, each candidate will have up to 1 minute for a closing statement. With us tonight are 2 candidates for Kalamazoo Mayor, David Anderson and Chris Glasser. The third candidate, Robert Gray, was invited but is not participating this evening. By agreement of the candidates, we will be addressing each other by first name. We'll start with the first person who was drawn at random, Chris Glasser. Chris, your opening statement, please. You have up to 2 minutes.
All right, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Glasser, and I'm running to be your next mayor. I'm born and raised in Kalamazoo. I'm a double alumni of Western Michigan University. I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice and then my master's degree in public administration from Western. My professional background is in child welfare, public safety, and community corrections. And something to know about me, this goes beyond necessarily the scope of city government, but I believe some of the biggest issues facing us as a country are wealth inequality and political corruption. And even if we can't tackle that fully here at the city level, we can at least pledge to not make it any worse. Further, I believe that housing, education, and healthcare are fundamental human rights. And again, that is a tough thing for a city to tackle alone, although we do have a good start with the Kalamazoo Promise. So even if we cannot do that alone, I do pledge to work with our local, state, and federal partners to pursue those goals. Finally, I want to say that I believe in an informed and educated public and encourage everyone to get involved in local government in any way that they can. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Anderson. I have the honor of being the mayor in the city of Kalamazoo. It's a pleasure to see all of you here. It's a pleasure to be here with my opponent in this particular round, Chris Glasser. I appreciate spending some time with you, Chris, and having these conversations. So I just wanted to touch on two things in my opening remarks. One is, it is no surprise to anybody in this room that the national tenor around politics is in as bad a state as any time that we can remember. And there's a coarsening of language, there is personal attack, there are decisions being made which are not consistent with values that we hold deeply in being committed to this democratic experiment we have going. And that kind of national conversation is also insinuating itself at the local level, where we see each other every day. We talk about things. However, I just want to make sure that people know I am not that kind of leader. That is not my leadership style. My leadership style is to treat people with respect as full human beings and to engage in civil conversation. The second thing I want to say is that relative to our conversation and the commissioners coming forward, mayor and commission is a team sport. You're one of 7. Mayor doesn't have any more power in voting than the rest of the commission. So it means you need to be able to work together with your commission team, with your 650 member team at the city to get the good work done. I believe I bring the team spirit, the connections, the community engagement to this effort. And I look forward to this ongoing conversation over the next couple months. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll proceed to the questions prepared by the League of Women Voters and the sponsoring organizations. We will start with David. You have 90 seconds for your response. The first question is, how will you ensure that major decisions made by the city manager and commission are inclusive of public input and communicated effectively?
Thank you so much for that question. So these are going to be big questions, and we're going to have 90 seconds to answer them. So I'm sure we're going to try to rush through these answers. We have worked on this effort to include community engagement, starting with Imagine Kalamazoo 2025, an extensive, most extensive engagement effort ever undertaken by the city of Kalamazoo. That incorporated all kinds of community input, which has been driving our decision making. Right now, we are involved in IK 2035, same effort, already a lot of input into those critical areas that will inform the commission about what decisions to make going forward. In addition, I just want to say that we depend on community survey. We have community engagement regularly on our website. And we, on the communication side, just in the last couple of years, we have hired a public information officer who works in the city manager's office to intentionally provide information and communication from the city. I think we are also working on efforts to try to use more platforms than we do in terms of that communication, but this is a city and a commission that is committed to community input.
Obviously, where you start is informing the public knowing what is going on and understanding how they can impact it. The city does utilize things such as public forums, public workshops, and I think that's something that needs to be utilized more so than it is now. I encourage everyone to participate in the public comment portion of city commission meetings, and I would also encourage bringing back the ability to call in to the city commission meetings because not everyone is able to be at City Hall in person at 7 p.m. One of the biggest things is we also need to be cognizant of new and emerging technology. So making sure that, with our communications that we're engaging people on all platforms. Some folks are still using the newspapers, some people are on social media, and everything in between. I would also encourage and want to strengthen our neighborhood associations. As a former president of the East Side Neighborhood Association, I understand the importance that they have and the fact that communities can come together and discuss their concerns there. And sometimes, because we can't have a public listening session on every single issue, we have these associations that meet on a monthly basis, and that can be a great source of input and a way for the community to communicate with the commission.
Thank you. The next question, and then I'll start with you for this one, Chris. What steps will you take, if elected, to pursue anti-racist work by Kalamazoo's government?
I think when it comes to anti-racist work and DEI in general, it starts, again, with an understanding of history, especially in Kalamazoo, the history of redlining and the way that that's impacted our communities, the way that certain neighborhoods are impacted disproportionately by things like air pollution. It's understanding where we came from and the history of it, and then it's about listening to the people living that life right now. So it's a part of the history and it's a part of listening now. I know that, here I am, I'm a white male. I am not going to understand the full scope and things that people are living in their different unique lives. And so from my perspective, the biggest thing in this is to listen. Further, I know there are attacks of DEI programs from the federal government. I do commit to stand by that and to not back down and to continue the DEI policies, if not strengthen them, that the city currently has. Thank you.
All set. During the time I've been mayor in Kalamazoo and with the commission, and Don Cooney is here, city commissioner, we created a DEI department and funded it at the city of Kalamazoo and staffed that department. That department is very engaged in ongoing trainings with staff. Once again, there's a variety of trainings they do, including anti-racist, but also related to persons with a disability. All the kinds of ways that people can be treated as less than. So continue to support that DEI department at the city of Kalamazoo. Additionally, we have the Civil Rights Board, which is working right now on the efforts that they can make related to identifying issues in public accommodations, housing, and employment across the city for areas that are not necessarily covered by the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. Over the course of time at the city, I have been a leader when it's come to supporting policies that are inclusive, starting with the 2009 One Kalamazoo ordinance change in Kalamazoo, which I helped lead with Commissioner Cooney, that effort to pass that ordinance for the city of Kalamazoo, way ahead of those kinds of changes otherwise that followed along by the state and the federal government.
Thank you. Moving on to question 3, and this time we'll start with you, David. How would you ensure that downtown development provides overall benefits to the people of Kalamazoo and does not adversely impact any group?
Thank you, Chris. Just to a certain extent, the city government only has certain powers, and we don't develop the downtown. So there's going to be a step aside when it comes to how do we ensure certain things to happen when a person can rent a business and open a business downtown. What we can do is we can support those efforts, and I'll list some ways that we do that. For example, the city helped with a business, a minority-owned business downtown, Dessert First. That's a way that we can help equitable downtown development. We helped when the Experience opened some years ago, providing more diverse opportunities in downtown. I think that ultimately what we can do is if we create a downtown that we support, that it can be a downtown where everybody feels welcome and has opportunity, and entrepreneurs can take advantage of those opportunities. We certainly are looking for ways where we can use smaller pop-ups with some of our downtown events to help emerging entrepreneurs who don't necessarily have the financing to maybe start a business, or we are not able to help them at that time, so people can continue to feel part of the downtown. It's a place where everybody belongs.
Thank you. I think a largest part of this, goes back to getting the public feedback and the public input and understanding, directly how these sorts of developments can impact people. Obviously, the downtown arena is one of the biggest things right now. That is a thing that a large portion of the population wasn't supportive of, but it's happening now. And so understanding how that can impact them, like one of the biggest things we're talking about, bringing thousands of people into downtown, how is that going to impact the traffic? How is that going to impact the people and the families around that arena? Further, when it comes to understanding the impact of families across the city, is understanding also the impact that offering things like tax breaks can have. Right now, one of the biggest tools used by the city is giving tax breaks to developers. Obviously, that takes away from the limited funding that the city already has, and these are oftentimes for projects that are already being built regardless. So seeing, is it really worth taking away that kind of revenue? What kind of services are being taken away from the residents of Kalamazoo to give tax breaks to developers? And that's just something that we need to keep in mind.
Thank you. So moving on to the next question, and we'll start with you, Chris. What is the city's role in promoting clean energy use and energy efficiency in homes and businesses?
Obviously, climate change is a large issue facing not just this country, but the entire world. And so the city should be doing what it can when, obviously, we know these are difficult times fiscally, when physically able to promote green energy, whether that is utilizing EV vehicles, installing solar panels on city buildings, and any way that we can reduce our carbon impact. Regarding the environment in general, we obviously need to be very cognizant of both our air, our water, as well as the lead in our homes. The city is doing a fairly good job of addressing lead in our pipelines, but we still have ongoing concerns of lead in our paint in our homes. We obviously are well aware of the water quality in things like the Kalamazoo River, and aware of air quality concerns by places like graphic packaging, and that's causing increased rates of asthma in disproportionately affected communities.
So what is the city's role in promoting it? Related to tax breaks, the city cannot determine on its own to give tax breaks. The tax breaks that are provided through the city are only ones that are defined by state law. So those tools are given to us. So we don't have a direct way, for example, to support a solar rooftop program by giving people tax breaks and that sort of thing. One way that the city can lead in that effort is by being an example. And here's a couple big things that the city is doing specifically related to this. One, the city has already entered into a contract with Consumers Energy so that by 2028, 100% of the electric use for city buildings will be provided by renewable energy sources. That is reducing our carbon footprint for city operations by 50%. That's huge for the city. We spent a lot of time looking around and seeing, could we put up our own solar panels? Is there enough room for that? There was really no way to get to that level of investment. I will say that, in addition, I think that it is possible we could work with nonprofit partners. We are very supportive of the partners that received a grant to do that work here in the city of Kalamazoo that may have lost their federal funding. So maybe there's a way we can step into that space and help keep that program going. Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for the next question. And we'll start with you, David, on this one. How would you ensure that city residents have confidence in the public safety department?
We have been making a lot of efforts at the city of Kalamazoo lately to make sure that everyone in Kalamazoo feels like they can live in a safe neighborhood and they will have policing that is equitable. I would say that is a work in progress, but I can say here are some things that have occurred over the last few years. One is expanded our community engagement team effort. We started that program in the last few years and just doubled the size of that. Second, the PALS program. Up until a few years ago, that is not something we took advantage of. The Police Athletic League, the city just received an award from El Concilio at the gala on this past weekend related to the positive relationship that was built through soccer with 300 young people getting to take advantage of that program through Kalamazoo PALS. Last thing is we have started a new feedback form card, QR card, which we pass out to an individual when they've had an interaction with public safety so they can immediately respond with an anonymous survey talking about what that interaction was like. And we are regularly updated on the results of that survey, and we have asked our public safety department to manage and lead relative to what those survey results are.
One of the biggest things for ensuring that there is confidence in our public safety is transparency. Transparency and accountability, that's something that goes across not just public safety, but every department in the city. The people understanding what's going on and why it's happening and feeling like they can have confidence that there is a rhyme and reason with what the city is doing and what public safety is doing. Community outreach is another large part of that. I say this as someone who was a police explorer with the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. That was a great opportunity. It was a great way of going out and interacting with the community. And I understand that it's a difficult time with public safety because they will do things like they will go out and engage. They'll play basketball with some neighborhood kids. They're trying their best. And sometimes that gets painted as a PR stunt. So it's a double-edged blade. What can we do to get that trust without just looking like it's a stunt? Another big thing is just making sure that we are continuous with the training of our public safety officers. One of the biggest things that I've seen personally, and this is someone working in the child welfare system as well, when you are constantly exposed to a lot of negativity, which is something that our public safety officers get a lot of people who are berating them and negative to them, making sure that we're pulling them out, giving them that training, refreshing them so their life isn't purely negative, and that will affect the kind of service that they give our citizens.
Thank you. I have another question, and we'll start with Chris this time. How will you advocate for fair and ensure equitable access to city resources and services across all neighborhoods, especially historically underserved ones?
So I think this goes back, again, to understanding the history, which neighborhoods are disadvantaged and for what reasons. It also goes back to our communication aspect, making sure that it's a two-way communication, that they both understand what is going on and have the ability to provide that input. And again, going back to strengthening our neighborhood associations. We don't have associations in every single neighborhood, and so I would definitely like to see making sure that neighborhoods have the resources if they want to start their own associations, that they can do so, and that they'll have the support of the city.
Thank you. Advocacy is one thing, but there's the other thing that really makes a difference is the data and measuring what you're doing and where the investments are occurring. So for example, one way that we do this is anyone can go online right now and look up where the FFE spending has occurred, Foundation for Excellence spending, in the city of Kalamazoo, site by site by site. And as you work your cursor across that, you can see what the actual projects are. So if you look at that kind of investment, you will find that there is a great deal of investment in underserved neighborhoods. That's something I'm very proud about. I think it's necessary. So that kind of model, that kind of measuring, that kind of transparency relative to anyone being able to see that information at any time, that's how we will hold ourselves accountable.
Okay, next question, and we'll start with you, David, on this one. How do you intend to support and protect the community in the midst of looming state and federal budget cuts and other potential threats?
I mean, ultimately, I guess there is no absolute way to say that we are not going to experience a federal funding cut. What does that mean for the city, though? So keep it in mind that the city, through something that I was blessed to be part of, now does have an additional funding source called the Foundation for Excellence. And the spending out of the Foundation for Excellence is a decision that's made by the City Commission in public. So we are lucky enough to have a protective fund which can help backfill some of those cuts. Also, most of our funding for local operations come from our general fund, so that's not federal funding. Where we could be at risk is our HUD funding in CDBG and home dollars. We'll watch and see where that goes. We could be at risk at our MDOT dollars. We've received well over $100 million pledged for our downtown work to make streets safer and more walkable and two-way. So we'll see what happens with that. But for example, if we find out that for some reason the feds are going to cut that $100 million commitment, there's no way to fill that gap. That's going to be a reimagining of what we can do. But we are lucky enough to be in the place where we will have other resources that other cities do not have to help fill those gaps.
So this is definitely a very difficult time that we have ahead of us, and like David said, there is no guarantee for any of this. One of the largest ways that the city can gain revenue is obviously through property taxes, and that only accounts for about 33% of the city budget. Another 20-some% comes from the state. So we are looking at a very difficult situation if state funding or federal funding are taken away. This is going to take advocating both in working with our state and federal partners because again, we're not in a situation, people are feeling it enough already. We're not in a position where we would ever want to raise property taxes. Wages are stagnating. People can't afford to pay even more in property taxes. I would recommend working with our state partners and either pulling back the preemption laws that allow us to either do an income tax or a sales tax targeted at the wealthier individuals in our city, or changing how the revenue sharing is done on the state level. But it is definitely, we've got difficult times ahead, and it's going to require cooperation with all of our local partners.
Thank you. Our next question. What environmental concerns are most significant in the city? What should the city do to address them? And I'll start with you, Chris.
So as I mentioned earlier, the biggest concerns that I see directly on the city level are the concerns with our air quality, our water quality, and lead in our homes. And the biggest thing with that is testing, making sure that we have air quality monitors throughout the city, which I do know we have in some aspects, or at least did in the past, making sure that we are doing continuous testing for our water quality, and making sure that our homes are lead-free, both in the pipes and in the paint.
So the most, what environmental concerns? Obviously water, air, lead paint in homes. And what are we doing about that? We have invested in the last few years more in our infrastructure in our water system than has ever been done over the course of time. More investment in that infrastructure. Also, we have invested vastly more money than has ever been invested just in the last couple of years in addressing air quality issues in the city of Kalamazoo. We've put tens of millions of dollars of work into our wastewater treatment plant, working with the manufacturing partners that and hire a lot of people here in Kalamazoo to make sure that we are reducing air quality issues, which have, if you just talk about hydrogen sulfide as one, we have reduced the incidence by 89% since we've been doing that work. But that work isn't over, still more plans. What else are we doing? Making sure the city is walkable, people are driving less, beautiful parks to go to. This planting trees. We've gotten a $1 million grant to plant trees. We've been planting hundreds of trees in Kalamazoo, trying to repopulate the tree cover in Kalamazoo as well. Lastly, it is the commitment of this city commission, and I believe any city commission going forward, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect the health and safety of every individual that resides in Kalamazoo.
Thank you. Now we're moving to closing statements. Each candidate now has up to 1 minute for a closing statement, and we'll start with David.
Okay, 1 minute, here we go. So, thank you, Chris Glasser. Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Thank you, everybody that came here today. I really appreciate it. This is kind of the beginning of what is thankfully a short campaign season between now and November 4th. Let's also keep it in mind that over 2/3 of folks now vote absentee in Kalamazoo. That means people will possibly be having their votes cast before even mid-October. This is a team sport, whether it's commission or mayor. This is also a public business. Our business at the City of Kalamazoo is a $388 million business. That was our budget for the year that we're in. Much of the work we do, I hate to say it, it's boring. It's making sure that systems function, that budgets are balanced. And let's not forget how important it is that the city take care of its own infrastructure, roads, water, sewer, sidewalks, parks, that no one else is going to take care of for us.
So I want to say one thing is we are going to be facing a lot of unique challenges coming ahead, both at the local level, the state level, and the federal level. At the most very literal definition, the mayor serves as the head of the commission. They lead the meetings, and as Mayor Anderson referenced, they're doing things like approving contracts and city ordinances, and that's kind of the bare minimum expectations of what it is to be mayor. But I think in these times ahead, we're going to need to start thinking outside of the box. We're going to need to step outside of the city chambers. We need to be communicating with our fellow neighbors and, like I said, working with our local partners, our state partners, our federal partners to realize and figure out how are we going to navigate these challenges ahead. We're going to need an advocate. We're going to need somebody that steps outside of the city chambers and addresses these large pressing issues ahead. Everybody get out and vote. And also, I know everyone in this room is going to vote, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, and talk to your family, and get out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. So this concludes the mayoral portion of our forum. We thank our candidates for their participation and remind candidates and viewers that the recordings of this forum may not be used without the express written approval of the League of Women Voters. The League will only use audio video of this event to be shared in its entirety, except by the media reporting on the event. So now we're going to take a break for about 10 minutes and come back at 6:15, and we'll start our City Commissioner Forum. We have some QR codes around the room, on the tables, on the walls to evaluate the forum. We really need your feedback, so take a chance. Take a picture of it so you can fill out that survey. Have some refreshments, and we'll reconvene in 10 minutes.